Hey, and welcome to week 13 of WayneYA. I don't know about you, but I am getting a little bit exhausted this semester. We've read a lot, we've learned a lot, and we have two more books to go. This week, we continue our investigation with John Green's The Fault in Our Stars. So, like always, here's a quick agenda. We're going to work to understand ableism in YA, think about why the fault in our stars, again, briefly go over CQTT paper number 2, underscoring when it's due, talk a little bit about the ETC prompt for this week, and then close out with any questions you may have about how to successfully navigate the end of WayneYA this semester. So just very quickly, we're reading on John Green's The Fault in Our Stars alongside of Tal's article Swimming the Mainstream, a discussion of criteria for evaluating children's literature about disabilities. And then we're going to read an online article from Disability Studies Quarterly and a blog post about Cyclit to really think about what is this new genre called Cyclit and how do I sort of as a librarian, as a teacher, as a professional, navigate and evaluate texts that are largely about ableism or disability. We are also thinking about CQTT paper number 2, and I wanted just to say that a lot of questions about CQTT paper number 2 were asked during WayneYA on Air, which the transcript is here, so check that out if you need it. So I want to think a little bit about understanding ableism. And when we think about ableism, we really are sort of thinking about in what ways are the characters being perceived, how is the author describing sort of the context of illness, disease, or ability, and in what ways are we working to humanize the characters or protagonists that we're exploring. So this week we're reading an online article called Children's Literature that includes characters with disabilities or illnesses. And in that article, Blaska promotes 10 criteria to look for when evaluating children's and young adult texts. 1. Promotes empathy, not pity. 2. Depicts acceptance, not ridicule. 3. Emphasizes success rather than or in addition to failure. 4. Promotes positive images of persons with disabilities or illness. 5. Assists children in gaining accurate understanding of the disability or illness. 6. Demonstrates respect for persons with disabilities. 7. Promotes attitudes of one of us, not one of them. 8. Uses language which stresses person first, disability second philosophy, i.e. Jody who is blind. 9. Describes the disability or person with disabilities or illness as realistic. They are not subhuman or superhuman. And 10. Illustrates characteristics in a realistic manner. I want you to think about John Green's book, and I want you to sort of think about in what ways does this text meet or not meet this criteria. The one thing I will sort of say is like, yes, you can go to the video, you can go to the movie, it was a blockbuster Hollywood success, but I really want you to sort of understand the nuance that the author took in writing about ableism and disability and illness in this book, because it is very different from the screen. So think about that as you begin your read. We're also going to think about the controversy that was recently published in 2013 in the YALSA blog, The Hub, and the controversy over Cyclit. What's interesting is Cyclit is one of those sub-themes or genres of young adult literature that is really, really gaining traction and is doing really well in its marketability for young adults. And my question for you is, I want you to think about, well, why? Why is this important, and in what ways are we sort of selling illness, or in what ways does this help complicate the narrative of young adulthood or adolescence that is promoted in adulthood? So CQTT paper number 2, I don't have much to say. I've talked to many of you this week. I've really sort of thought that the conversations have been generative. We've made a mountain out of a molehill in many cases. We've refined questions, and in many ways we've sort of at least left feeling really good about the question you're asking, which hopefully leads you to feel good about the work and the writing you had to complete. Just a quick reminder, it is due this Sunday, April 16th by 11:59 p.m. And what I will say is that many of you are sending me emails being like, hey, can you look at this? And you're sending entire papers. I will not read entire papers. I work from the philosophy that I will not grade it twice. So if you want me to grade it early, I can. You can leave it in Dropbox or in the Blackboard, and I potentially will look at it. But I'm not going to, in sum and in short, grade it twice in anticipation of helping you do sort of a revision. You have many peers in this class who can help you do that work, and I know some of you have already reached out to one another, and that's one of the ways that I would sort of think about if I want a clean set of eyes on the entire paper. Ask a friend. Those are the people who sort of are, enjoying this class and the experience of writing for Wargo in the same way you are. So really sort of look to their perspective. Again, though, I will say, and I've talked to each of you, when you're thinking about writing, please look at the writing resources folder on Blackboard, especially when thinking about APA. Many of you got dinged some points because the writing just did not adhere or have formatting according to APA 6th edition. So think about that, because I don't want you to look like Lisa in the bottom right when you sort of receive your grade for CQTT paper number 2. This week, our ETC prompt takes up the 10 criteria of ableism, and we are going to think about the fault in our stars across the 10 criteria and examine ableism or disability. So in your response, I want you to talk across 4 of the criteria, any 4, just choose 4 or more, and evaluate the fault in our stars. But don't simply write yes or no. Rather, highlight the nuance and the complexity of your read and the book's meeting or not meeting of the criteria. Talk about the way Green uses words and the rhetorics of ableism in his text to think about, does this book meet the criteria and does it not, right? You just have to choose 4. I would encourage you to choose more, but just 4 for the ETC. Reminder, we're no longer using the blog. I don't think anyone still is, but I just want you to make sure that you have all of your ETCs on Blackboard. So, looking ahead, I would say that if you're finishing The Fault in Our Stars, I would pick up and start reading The Knife of Never Letting Go. We end with a sort of very dystopian text, another sort of sub-theme or genre of young adult literature that, again, is killing it in the market and is really increasing a readership of young adults that I think is indicative of our time and our current political context. I really love The Knife of Never Letting Go. I actually love the entire series of this book, which is the Chaos Walking series. This is book 1 of 3 books. And we're sort of ending with Wargo's favorite YA book that he's read in his examination sort of work in young adult literature. Again, if you want office hours this week, I'm around. Please call me. As I told Ashley yesterday on the phone, my schedule's a little bit whack. I'm at an elementary school every morning from 9 until 5. I'm working with some teachers and doing some research there. But afterwards, I'm more than happy to Google Hangout or chat with you. And or if you want to meet in person, I'm willing to sort of come back out to Wayne if any of those times work. So have a great week, and I look forward to seeing those CQTT papers.